Hello everyone and welcome to our next installment in video game Unity programming. So today we're going to talk about the ever important topic of a prefab. Before we talk about what a prefab is, let's talk about the problem that a prefab aims to solve. Right now I have a game. And in this game I have a sphere and some cubes. And the goal is to have cubes that when I touch them, they destroy themselves. Kind of like we did in our cube collection lab in class. So if we take a look at the cubes that I have, here's cube number 1, cube 3, 4, etc. Right now, only cube 3 has a script on it. And let's take a look at what that script is. Here's our script. It's pretty simple. On trigger enter, if the other game object is a sphere, and actually we're going to get rid of this because our sphere is going to be the only thing moving around, and we want this to be as simple as possible. So when you are touched, basically, destroy yourself. Simple enough. So when a cube is touched, it's going to destroy itself. The problem is right now, this script is only attached to one of our cubes, cube number 3. If I look at my other cubes, they're not here. We could attach this script to every cube manually, which seems kind of excessive because they're all supposed to be the same. But then what happens if we want one of these cubes, or if we want all these cubes to have the same color? Or if we suddenly decide that they all should be rigid bodies, or if they all should have lamps attached to them? We're running into a problem where every time we want to change a cube, we have to make the change in 5 different places. And that's not very good programming. In general, as you guys have found in Introduction to Computer Programming and other classes, when we start repeating ourselves, that's a sign that we're doing something wrong. And that's the case here. So we are going to delete all of these cubes, save for one, and we are going to make this guy a prefab. There's a couple of different ways to make a prefab, but all a prefab is a reusable set of a reusable game object, basically, a blueprint for a particular game object. And I am going to start organizing my stuff here. So I'm going to put my scripts into the scripts folder, because we're going to start adding some new stuff. And I'm going to create a folder called Prefabs. And if we look at our sphere, I want to make sure that this is still here. Velocity script. Okay, good. So what we want to do with our cube, we want to set our cube up. So let's say we want all of our cubes to be red, and we want them, we want all of our cubes to be red, and we want them to have a lamp attached to them, and we want this script attached to them. I am going to set up this cube exactly as I want all my other cubes to be set up. But I'm not going to add new cubes. Instead, I'm going to turn this cube into a prefab. So let's go ahead, oh my goodness. Let's go ahead and create a material for this guy. And this material is going to be pretty simple. Just going to be red. Enough. We're going to drag this material onto our cube, so our cube is red, and we're going to do a couple of things to this cube. We're going to give this cube the script that it needs, the cube trigger script. There's our script. And we're going to add a light. Why not? So now it glows. We're going to make it glow green. No, actually, we're going to make this like a Joker cube. We're going to give it a purple light. No. Hold on. We're going to give it a green light. And then we're going to make the cube purple. There we go. We've got like a random comic book villain themed cube. And that's what we're going to have for our cube. And now we want to make this cube repeatable. So I'm going to rename this cube. I'm going to call it, actually no, I'm going to keep it cube. But I'm going to go into my prefabs folder, and I'm going to drag this guy into my prefabs folder. Now I have made what is called a prefab. This cube has all of the properties of the cube up here, and I'm going to rename this guy the cube prefab. And basically what this means is anytime I drag this cube into the scene, I'm going to make more cubes that have all the exact same properties as my prefab. This saves me from having to attach scripts to 5 different cubes and having to make changes in 5 different places. So let's go ahead and pop a few of these cubes onto our scene. And we can see that the cube prefabs all have this blue coloring to them in the hierarchy window. That's denoting that these are prefabs, meaning that they all inherit from a single object. So there's a couple of important vocab terms happening here. And actually, let's pull up my sticky notes so we can highlight a couple of these guys. Let's make a new note right here. Notes are getting crowded. For prefabs. A prefab is a reusable game object. It's like a blueprint. Now there's another really important vocab word, and that is called an instance. An instance is a specific prefab in the scene. This is just like, for those of us that have talked about the difference between classes and objects in Java, this is just like the difference between a class and an object in code. Our prefab would be our class. It's the blueprint. It doesn't change based on a specific object. Instances would be the objects. They're the actual cubes here. Now, one really, really important thing. If I make a change to any one of these cubes, it doesn't affect the prefab. Okay? If I change an instance, then just the instance changes. However, instances inherit from prefabs. And what we mean by that is they get the prefab changes. So if I suddenly decide that this prefab also is going to, I don't know, let's change the prefab's color. You can see that all of them change. So a prefab is an excellent way to create a reusable object and make changes to multiple objects, but in one place. And that makes prefabs very, very powerful. So let's make sure that everything held. We drop into the scene. Oh, and these guys are not triggers. So look at that. We have something to fix here. I tried to touch these cubes, but I couldn't go through them because the cubes are not set up as triggers. Never fear. Because I've set this up as a prefab, this is an excellent example of why this is useful. Now I just have to check, is trigger in one place, and all of these guys are now triggers. One change that's seen in 5 different places. Now I touch them, and they disappear. And of course, I made my sphere very, very slow here, but you can see that happening. So I only had to make the change in the prefab, and all of the children get the prefab's properties. So that's pretty much all there is to say about prefabs. They're really, really useful. In later classes, we're going to see how we can use prefabs to spawn things while we play the game. But for right now, all we care about is making sure that we can make changes to a single prefab and have those changes persist everywhere. In fact, one more change I'm going to make, just because I want it to look better. I'm going to draw a halo here so that we can see all of our cubes glowing green. There we go. That looks much nicer. So there you have it, folks. Prefabs are how we reuse game objects so that we can customize them without having to change every little game object we put into the scene. Thanks for watching.